Here's what I think happened. The old man heard the fight between the boy and his father a few hours earlier. Then when he's lying in his bed, he heard a body hit the floor in the boy's apartment, heard the woman scream from across the street, got to his front door as fast as he could, heard somebody racing down the stairs, and assumed it was the boy.
I think that's possible.
Assumed?
Brother, I've seen all kinds of dishonesty in my day, but this little display takes the cake. You all come in here with your hearts bleeding all over the floor about slum kids and injustice. You listen to some fairy tales. Suddenly you start getting through to some of these old ladies. Well, you're not getting through to me. I've had enough. What's the matter with you guys? You all know he's guilty. He's got to burn. You're letting him slip through our fingers.
Slip through our fingers? Are you his executioner?
I'm one of them.
Perhaps you'd like to pull the switch.
For this kid, you bet I would.
I feel sorry for you. What it must feel like to want to pull the switch. Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger. You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist.
Kill him out! Kill him!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros Podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How about y'all?
Doing good.
I'm doing good as well. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing well.
Yeah, it was a chill morning, actually. A chill day. It was my day off today, so.
Nice. Yeah, I had a pretty boring day. Well, it started boring because, I had a couple things happen at work that didn't necessarily line up with my plan, and then afterwards I was kind of like, all right, well, I've done everything I needed to do. What else can I do now? Mm-hmm. But, I luckily found some stuff to do and tried to prolong that for the rest of the day. So, I spent a lot of it actually, simultaneously while I'm doing work, researching a lot about this film and listening to, analysis and critique and all that stuff. So I guess you could say it was pretty resourceful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Way more than mine. I didn't wake up until noon.
That must be nice.
That's
bro.
yeah.
Especially with this time change, man.
Dude.
It made it hard.
I think that's what made it worse for me was because I didn't get to go to bed until or at least I couldn't fall asleep until 2. I would check my clock every hour, and then I was like, I can't sleep. So then I was just like, what do I do? And I just laid there with my eyes open until I fell asleep.
You did. So I woke up around 2:30. Because some guy was walking past our building.
He yelling?
Yeah, you heard him?
Yeah, I heard him yelling.
No, he was like rapping something. I don't know exactly what he was saying.
But it was loud.
Yeah, I just remember the cadence of what it was that he was saying. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he had some chihuahua following him. 2:30 in the morning, and he was walking with his hood on, and he was like, no, yeah. And kept doing it,
man. He's recording his mixtape.
And I remember, I woke up because he's walking by his place. And I hear him. I look out the window, and he's doing that. And I started laughing, but I was laughing, and so much that I thought I was gonna wake up Alexa. And so I was like, all right, go stop. I turned over real quick and tried to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Dude, the cops were active too last night, so I think that's what kept me up because I'm a little chismoso.
That's very true.
Anytime I heard sirens, I think I got up from my bed and looked out the window to see what it was.
It's funny.
For a split second, too, you just see him run.
Yeah.
That's the only action you get, too.
Yeah.
What about you?
How's your day?
Day was fine, man. Work was going normal, except there was one funny part about it was we have this 3D printer, and for some reason, man, it's making this noise, right? And it starts by going... It seriously sounds like that, right? And we're all sitting down, we're like, what the heck was that noise? We're all questioning what's going on, and then maybe a minute later it goes, and we're looking around, and we find that it's the printer, and nobody fixed it. So literally for 5 hours, every minute it would go.
Bro, I would be so mad.
No, I thought we were gonna get annoyed, but every time it went off, bro, I just went. It straight up sounded like an old man grunting.
That's funny.
It was great.
Sounded like a broken Minecraft villager.
Go. It did. No, it seriously did.
Going.
That's
But
funny.
That's funny.
That was my day.
I think that'd be annoying after a while.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Every time I found
You
a way
think
to
you could
laugh
like that
at
tomorrow?
it. I don't know.
If it is, please record it.
Dude, and it's seriously like it's an unhealthy noise. You know how when you hear noises from technology, you're like, okay, hold up.
Yeah.
That was not good.
They just straight up let it go. I said, all right, it's
Yeah,
not my machine.
that's a 3D printer.
That's not in my job description.
I said, okay, I'm here for it.
All right. Well, the nice thing about this podcast is we get to, forget about the day to day, and we get to vent and relax and talk about movies. That's one of the reasons why we love doing this, is because we get to. It's kind of like a form of escapism almost.
For sure.
Almost, yeah.
But so I'm excited to talk about this movie. We've never done this movie. We're doing an episode on it, but we've never seen this movie.
Never.
It's all a first for us, and I gotta say this was really exciting to watch. And it's one of those movies that's like, top 250 movies you should see
number
before
5.
you die. Like, yeah, it's top 5 on the top 250 IMDb list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one of those movies that people swear by that you have to see before you die. And I'm glad that we picked it. It is, as you can tell by the title, 12 Angry Men. Came out in 1957, and it is written by Reginald Rose and directed by Sidney Lumet. And I know what you guys might be thinking. What are you guys doing reviewing such an old film?
Old.
It is old. It is in black and white. But I have to say, this movie does not feel aged.
No, definitely not.
It doesn't.
And I think it does that, other than the black and white, because no one's talking like like they're stereotypically from the 50s or 40s.
Yeah.
No one's being like, now listen here, saying, yeah. Everyone's talking normally. They're wearing 3-piece suits, and
they have nothing that dates them. That's why they don't ever talk
Exactly.
about any pop culture references.
Exactly.
Anything like that.
Exactly. And this is, I don't know, man. I'm really excited that we did watch it, because it's genuinely a great film.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to get into it and break it down a little bit. But I mean, before we do, I'll give a little bit of a synopsis for our viewers, and where you guys can stream that, and a little bit of a spoiler warning, and then get into it. So 12 Angry Men is a film about 12 jurors on...
I thought you were just going to say 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, that's it. There's 12 of them. They're angry.
That's it. They're sweaty, too.
Yeah, they're sweating.
They're sweating big time.
But it's about 12 jurors on a murder case, or I guess I should specify it's about 12 white men on a murder case that involves a person of color.
Yep.
And they are essentially deciding the fate of this young man, this 18-year-old. And his fate is either he gets to walk or he gets the death penalty by electric chair.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire movie, we are watching these 12 guys break down the evidence and having that unfold before our eyes, along with the jury.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to come to a conclusion on whether or not they want this guy to walk, or if they want the blood on their hands from finding this man guilty,
mm-hmm.
and sending him to the chair. And it's only an hour 30, I think, and it is jam-packed.
It's riveting.
Full of dialogue and full of emotion and drama, and I can understand why it is on that top 5.
For sure.
So I believe right now this movie is streaming on Amazon Prime, so if you do have Amazon Prime, go check it out. I luckily had the pleasure of having this physically. I think this past Christmas, my dad and my mom got me a copy of it from Criterion Collection.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really exciting to see it in 4K,
mm-hmm.
and it looked beautiful while I'm watching it.
Did they have any experience with this, or did they just think, oh, it's a good movie?
I think my dad has probably seen it.
I feel like this is a movie your dad would like.
Yeah, I feel like my dad has watched it. I haven't necessarily asked him, but he's been into some pretty old movies recently, and trying to go back and watch a lot of old
mm-hmm.
cinema, and see where a lot of movies now are getting all their inspiration and
mm-hmm.
all that stuff.
For sure.
And I remember him and my mom picking this movie out for me for Christmas, and I remember being really hyped about it.
I was jealous.
Yeah, I remember being hyped because I was like, dude, I've heard so much about this. I want to watch it. I don't know anything about it, which is how I prefer to keep movies. I love to be able to go into a movie completely surprised and, find the story out as I'm watching. But I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised as well. Like I'm really glad we all decided to watch this for the first time. So
For sure.
Yeah.
all right, so this is your spoiler warning right here, right now. If you don't want any spoilers, pause it, or if you don't care about spoilers, continue listening. If you do, again, pause it, come back, watch the movie. We really suggest you watch this movie. It is a great showmanship of direction, acting, and writing, and it's a great example of what you can do in just a room. And I'm really excited to break that down with y'all. So let's get into it here. I'll go ahead and start with my first favorite scene, which is immediately the intro.
Yeah.
And the reason that I love the intro to this is because it establishes the setting immediately, right? We get this beautiful shot of this courtroom, or this, hall or of some sort.
It's the courtroom, and then they go into the jury room afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the actual.
Or at least the courthouse.
It's
the courthouse.
There's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the whole courthouse. We see all these moving parts.
Yeah.
And all these people going in and out of rooms and stuff and everything. And
We're seeing the ins and outs of the courthouse, basically.
exactly. And we move into the courtroom, and we immediately get put right in front of the judge, and he starts breaking it down. And this movie is efficient in how it breaks down its story, tells you only what you need to know in that amount of time, and then lets the rest of the plot unfold.
For sure, yeah.
And it does that perfectly, I think. But the judge breaks it down and says, we've got a homicide here, and we have to be able to look at the evidence. So, jury, I'm going to ask you guys if you'll make your way into the room. Your vote needs to be unanimous. If you have any sort of reasonable doubt, you need to vote not guilty. If you think that the accused is guilty, then you'll need to vote as such, and his penalty will be death by the electric chair. If not, then you need to come in with reasonable doubt, vote not guilty, and he will walk.
Yeah. And
while that is being said, we get shots of the judge and this scrolling shot of everyone in the jury, and then judge dismisses them. They file into this room, and we get this sole shot of the accused, who is this young boy who has this look of shock and utter disbelief, I think. And, he is watching the jury decide his fate, and I can only imagine how scary that must be to, watch a group of people walk into a room and not know what they're going to do with your life. They're going to make a decision that changes your life forever. Which is terrifying.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, it's scary just to even think about it.
Yeah, but after that happens, we get this beautiful crossfade between this boy's face and just this scared look on his face, and then we get this beautiful crossfade into the jury room where the majority of the movie will take place. And as it's fading in and out,
it's quite long too.
Yeah, it's a big drawn out. You just
kind of see his eyes.
Yeah, and as it's fading out, the jury room becomes more prevalent, and you see the guys start to file in and stuff and everything, and then we move into the big chunk of the film after that. So,
yeah, I enjoyed this scene, and I extend the introduction to and it's kind of crazy because we get introduced to everyone at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it blew my mind that it's all one take.
And at the beginning, right?
Yeah. We get introduced to every juror. We know exactly what they do, and it's all one take. And they're all it's all moving parts in this seemingly maybe 7 or 8 minute scene with no cuts. It's insane.
It's almost overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it for that reason, because I had to parse out, okay, this is jury number, because we don't get names either. We just get their numbers on where they were seating.
Yeah.
So we get their numbers, and then, it's like you were saying, they're going through and they're like building their identities up. One's talking about sports all the time. There's another guy who's talking about or looking at the paper and trying to see where the stock market is. There's another guy trying to pitch, like writing his stuff out, like drawing stuff and trying to be a marketer or whatever.
Yeah.
So we get these little building blocks of the characters, and I can be like, okay, juror number 4, he's got this personality trait, and he's similar to this, and how they even speak comes through.
Yeah.
And with a lot of them, and I even like it too because, I think juror number 1, he immediately assumes the role of the foreman.
Yeah.
And he is already starting to. He's like, okay, gentlemen, let's sit around the table by number, and he's already trying to be organized and all that stuff. And I immediately liked the introduction because with how they portrayed how the courtroom went, you immediately think, yeah, this is a slam dunk case. He's guilty. All the evidence stacks against this kid. He had the knife. People heard him. People saw him. Like, he's guilty. Like, what? How could this movie be longer than an hour, right?
At a glance, this man is going to jail. He's going to the chair.
Going to the chair.
Yeah.
And I love it too because they do it a lot too because number 1 gets up there and he goes, okay, gentlemen, I just want you guys to know that, we're, if we all vote guilty, we're sending a man to the chair.
Yeah.
Like, and they're really trying to solidify the stakes here.
Yeah. And that was one thing that kind of blew my mind with some of the characters, like especially Juror 6. Like, in him just being like, all right, let's make this quick. I want to get to that ball game. Like,
that's
it was
all
like,
he cared about.
Yeah. It was like, you're deciding on a person's life. Like,
it requires more.
Yeah. It requires so much more. It requires a vast amount of attention, and especially like attention to detail and morality too. Like, how could you? I don't know, man. Like, anytime he would be like, "All right, let's get it over with, man. I want to get to this ball game and all this stuff," and I was like, "You're choosing entertainment over life, over a human's life." Yeah, it baffles my mind.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And this is kind of where the main source of tension builds. Because, they're going around the room. They're like, okay, let's see if we can make this go by quick. Let's just take a preliminary vote, see where we're all standing. And immediately we go, guilty, 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 until he gets to juror number 8. And he goes,
he doesn't vote. And it throws juror number 1 off.
Yeah, because he's like,
guilty, guilty, guilty. And then he gets to him and he doesn't raise his hand. And he's all right, guilty, guilty. He says, okay, well, everyone voting not guilty, please raise your hand.
And he's the
lone wolf.
The lone wolf
raises his hand and says, all right, gentlemen, we got 11-1.
11-1.
He goes, it has to be unanimous.
Yeah.
So
let's talk it out.
Yeah. I love it too because immediately he's like, okay, we'll go around the room and we'll state the reasons why. And oh my gosh.
And everybody says almost the same thing.
They do.
They're like, well, the evidence, just look at the evidence. And then that's when it gets to juror 8 and he's like, well, hold on, think about it a little bit. And then, but I don't hate it, but I like love it at the same time because in the beginning I take away from you, but it's like they just won't shut up. They won't listen to each other.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, let him talk. Like the foreman, juror number 1, he's like, let's give each person talk, but then they don't let each other talk.
They don't do it.
And it's literally, it's like to me, it's like a kindergarten classroom where no offense to kindergarten, it's like another kid, but where they won't shut up.
No, full offense to kindergarten.
But like, it's just like a classroom, like they won't shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I got mad, and I was watching the movie with my brother Sal, and he was like, what's wrong? And I was like, they won't shut up. Like, I want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's a perfect time for the jurors to give a little bit more of their personality too, because they're going around the room, they're trying to be orderly and all that stuff, but juror number 3 is like, now hold on a second, and he immediately is abrasive and taking up the entire room with violence, pretty much. Like he is the alpha in this situation.
Yeah.
And we get to see that about him, and we hear his side, and how everyone is like, oh yeah, I just think he's guilty.
With no evidence.
Yeah, and it's really, really weak, right? And whenever it comes to, and I love the film that it takes the really unbiased approach, right? Because we don't get pretty much any of the court scene. No. Literally none of it. It's the intel of, go and make your decision. So we don't have nothing. So when we get in there, it's like what people are saying are fact or truth. And for me, at least, I was like, okay, I believe him because I don't know anything else.
Yeah, we have nothing to stand by.
Yeah, but it's only until, juror number 8 is like, okay, hold on.
Just think about this.
Yeah, he's like, there's a probability here that we're wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's innocent. I truly don't. But we need to take at least a little bit of time to think about this.
Yeah. And I appreciate Juror 8's integrity in that moment, and the fact that, like, he's like, we need to be able to, this is a young man's life. We need to be able to give him the benefit of the doubt and to truly do our due diligence in finding out if whether we truly think this man is guilty or not. And I admire that about this guy's character, and the fact that he is, like, willing to do everything he has to do to, like, stand up to the call. And it's, I don't know, it's admirable. I really enjoy it.
Obviously he knows nothing of this kid, and he's still like, I'll do anything for this kid to even give him that chance, like you said, benefit of the doubt that he's not guilty.
Well, and that's I think the job of the jury is to, if there's reasonable doubt, then you can't, in good conscience, say guilty, right?
I also, watching this movie, I found myself thinking, do juries actually go through this, or they, like, I've never been on the jury or anything.
From some of the facts I had read, it's very similar to that, except they don't let you have any of the evidence. Like, I don't think they'll let you have the knife. No. They won't do all that. And I was even reading too, I guess it's one of my other favorite scenes, where he brings the knife out. That would be considered, like, highly illegal, and he would probably have gotten taken off the case for that.
Yeah.
But it's similar. I think it's a pretty good job at showing exactly what entails in a case like that. But
yeah. You want to move on to your favorite scene?
Yeah, my first favorite scene is actually quite a bit into the movie, and they get to vote again. So they get to the scene where they're voting again, but by paper, so they don't know who votes guilty or not guilty.
Okay. I think that yours is before that. With the knife.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to bring it up real quick? So that way
go
we
ahead.
Can go in
go ahead. So we're not out of order.
It's a little hard to, because it's this movie's kind of like it's a very long, like, linear tale.
It's pretty like straightforward.
It is. Yeah. So it's kind of like trying to categorize all these scenes in my head is a little difficult, but I wrote down, like, the most impactful scenes for me. And one of them being, all the jurors are making they're making their cases, and one of the evidence that they bring up is, the kid had a knife that was the most unique knife ever. He went to the store and bought it, and only, like, the store person only had one. He sold it to him, and that was the last he had seen a knife like that at all. And they start going, and I think the tale is he had a hole in his pocket and the knife fell out on his way to the movies or whatever, and like, we don't buy that. Of course we don't buy that. And they go, and he ends up bringing the knife in, the actual knife that was used.
Yeah, that was used.
And they get to inspect it, and it's a switchblade, and it's all the things, and I can't remember exactly what happens, but they bring that importance of it being very unique.
Very unique.
Well, they're like, it's the
and its handle and the blade and
immediately.
Well, because they're like, where they live. I forgot how they said it. Where they live, the area where they live.
The slums.
Yes,
the slums. Yeah. They were like, this person was like, there's never been one sold like this. And he goes, that's why he's guilty, because this is the only one.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the first breakdown of the evidence, where immediately he grabs into his pocket and pulls out one pretty much
identical.
Yeah, it's almost identical. And everyone's like, whoa, where'd you get that?
Yeah, and that's why I was like, that was a mind-blowing moment for me, because I was like, no way, he just pulled something like that.
Yeah, and he straight up says, like, I went to that same neighborhood.
Saw six of them.
Like, I bought
2 blocks apart.
Yeah,
from where
I bought the same one.
Yeah. And immediately I was like, because this was the first time the evidence isn't, like, if you even look deeper than surface level, you immediately can see, like,
there's questions here.
Yeah, there should be questions.
There's reasonable doubt.
Yes, there definitely is. And it was, I don't know, for me it was really powerful to see him immediately pull that knife out and just go boom.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting something like that.
Me neither.
Yeah, that was a bro moment for me, because I immediately was like, dude, like, he completely shatters that piece of evidence then and there. Like, had the justice system done its due diligence and really strived for justice, they would have found that. But this man is going that extra mile to show that there's loopholes in this case, and I'm dedicated to finding out what they are.
Yeah, there's questions that people are not asking.
It makes me. It also makes me think now that Juror 8, this case has to be going on for a while, because he said I had time to go around to that same area and just look around.
Mm-hmm.
So then immediately, I think him hearing this case was like, this is an 18-year-old kid. Like, he already is giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe it wasn't him, just from prior information in this case.
Yeah.
But are you done?
Oh, shoot.
Going back to my favorite scene after that, I think it's actually quite after.
It is, and I think this is one of the reasons why someone decides to change their mind, right?
Yes.
So, the proposition he makes is so powerful.
Yeah, this is mine as well.
Yeah, and so the guy, Juror 8, he goes, okay, if it stands 11-1, I will say it's guilty.
Yeah.
He goes, and we will go and tell the judge it's guilty. But let's write it on a piece of paper so we say
Unanimous.
I can't say that word. And so they go around the room.
Or it's anonymous. How do you...
Unanimous.
It's unanimous.
No, but when you want to be like, no one knows.
Oh,
Yeah,
anonymous.
Anonymous.
Grammar lesson here from the film.
He don't even speak good English.
He don't even.
But so then we get the scene of them just passing the papers and passing them to Juror 1, who is the foreman, as you guys said. And he goes, guilty. And he goes by like 8 or 9 of them. And finally he gets the one that says not guilty. And from what we know, it's not the guy, Juror 8, who said it's not guilty.
He said he would abstain from the vote.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's someone out of the 11 who said not guilty. And then Juror 1 repeats the last one. He goes, okay, boys, we have a not guilty. And immediately Juror 3 goes, who was it? I knew it was you. I know it was you. And I was like, I hate this dude.
Yeah, and I love that it ends up not even being that
no,
guy.
and it ends up not being the guy
It ends up being Juror 9, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it was the older man.
Yeah.
But the reason why he chose... I actually really did believe number 3. Because I think it's number 5.
Yeah, he says, like, well, I'm from the slum.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I grew up in those streets and everything. And
He's like, and it hurt, too, because, all the people there, they're like, these slums, they're nobodies. Like, all they know is how to lie. They're liars. They're all this stuff. And then immediately he gets real defensive. And he's like, well, I'm from the slums. Yeah. And look at me now. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And he's like, you could probably still smell it on me. You know what I mean? And he's getting, like, really defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a little bit of why he decides to change later on.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah, he's immediately number 3. He's like, why did you're hearing some of these facts and you're changing your mind. What does he call them? Like, you're bleeding hearts for this kid or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's just number 3's personality shining through.
And then that's when the best part comes out, and it's Juror 9. He goes, well, actually, it was me. And everybody was like,
yeah.
What? Like, they at least suspected this guy to say he was guilty.
Yeah.
Or not guilty, excuse me. And I don't know, I really just love that scene because you finally get to see the change in people, I think. And that's where, like, it just starts going up. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed this scene, too, because at this point we've heard Juror 8's case as to why he believes the jury should continue to talk. And I love the like inescapable tension in this scene when it's going around the table, everyone's writing their votes, there's no music. So you're just left with like background noise as to what's going on in the room, and everyone's passing their papers, and
all you hear is like them passing.
Yeah,
like you said.
Yeah, and the shot that had me gripping the edge of my seat was like when he's reading guilty. Like the whole time I'm like, there's got to be one. There's got to be one not guilty. And I love that they chose to, like, typical movie fashion would be to like leave the not guilty right at the end, but they choose to leave it like third or fourth from last.
Yeah.
To decide like, okay, this is the not guilty vote, and the foreman stands up and is like, we have a not guilty, gentlemen. That does it. We have to continue to talk and all this stuff, and then it gets into this discourse and everything like Abe described, and it's really, really masterful writing in just that scene alone, and I really really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I even think the camera work kind of builds tension too, because we see them riding, and then the camera kind of follows them all past their papers down towards the foreman, and it felt incredibly like visceral to watch it, and it's just papers being. But
well, yeah, because you think about it, and you're like, if these are all guilty, dude, this
kid's gonna die. Yeah,
yeah. Well, and also it's shot in a way too that like makes it feel,
eerie.
it makes it feel claustrophobic.
It does.
Yeah,
like it makes it feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I can't move, and like I need some sort of release, like, and that's the whole film until you get right to the end, whenever we like finally get out of that jury room, and it's done
chamber.
It's done beautifully, man.
And I guess the tension builds from there, right?
Yep.
After the proposition, my next one is, they're bringing up their case against it, and one of the ones is there's this older man who hears the kid scream, "I'm gonna kill you," through the second story, and immediately he hears the body fall. And they bring this up, and they're like, "Okay, well, how can you refute this?" And he immediately, it's hard to bring it all up, but he ends up,
he brings up the location of the actual apartment and the surroundings and everything like that, and we find out that apartment building, there's floors, and old man's on the first floor, murder happened on the second floor, so on and so forth, and there's apartments on the other side, and then there's a big train that goes right in the middle between the apartments.
And he starts to kind of critically think about the situation, and he breaks it down so perfectly for these guys to where they could have no refute, right? And immediately he starts talking about, like, "Oh, do you know how loud an L train is?" And he brings in number 5, and he's like, "Number 5 is a painter," and he's like, "Yeah, I've been here, I've done it, and it's incredibly loud." And he goes, "Don't you think that it would be pretty much impossible for this old man to hear him scream that?"
Exactly.
And again, that's part of the whole evidence turning on its head. And they're like, I don't know. They get to think a little bit more. And I love it too, because each character, they're all jurors, but they all bring their own personal experience into this, and they bring their own like insight to what only they knew. You know what I mean? And it was very specific to their life and their situation, which is what I love. And I think 8 is a really good, really good at bringing that out of people. I feel like he's a soundboard, basically.
Yeah.
He presents his idea, and then once he sees that someone has an idea too, he doesn't just say like, "Oh, you're dumb, like, what are you talking about, it's guilty." He lets them speak. He kind of like lets them flourish, especially with I think he's number 2, the guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
It felt like he always is getting stepped over, but it's only whenever he opens the discourse up, and he's able to be like, "I've actually had a question about this case." So he had reasonable doubt, but because everybody chose guilty, so did he.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see him open the floor like that, and to break down evidence like the L train going by. I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
And it brings in the whole saying of, he even says, he breaks it down saying, how many times have we said that phrase? "I'm going to kill you.
I'll kill you."
And he goes like, "I'll kill you, darling," or "I'll kill you for this, darling." And he puts it in different contexts, and it makes sense. Like, it's a common phrase.
Yeah, you've said it, but you don't mean it.
Yeah, you don't actually mean like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you."
Bro, and we say that, I'm like thinking about it now, we say that to each other almost every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna kill you."
Bro, I'll kill you if you do this.
Yeah. But it's not, you don't mean it. And
No.
that's what he's trying to bring up here.
Yeah. Exactly. And I really enjoy, I think this may go into the next scene whenever they start talking about the old man and stuff and everything, and then I think that iconic exchange between juror 3 and 8 happens when they start to have the argument and stuff, and juror 3 starts saying like, "Oh, you're twisting the evidence" and stuff like that and everything, and starts to get mad at juror 8 for doing this, and juror 3 essentially says like, "How many of you guys are going to listen to this guy? Like, he's turning everything on its head, and he wants to steer you guys away from what the truth is, and all this stuff." And I have the quote written down here. Juror 3 says, "Exactly. What's the matter with you guys? You all know he's guilty. He's got to burn. You're letting him slip through your fingers." And juror 8 says, "Slip through your fingers? Are you his executioner?" To which juror 3 replies, "I'm one of them." Juror 8 says, "Perhaps you'd like to pull the switch." And he says, "For this kid, you bet I would." And then juror 8 starts to bait him and says, "I feel sorry for you. What it must feel like to want to pull that switch." Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger. You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist.
Mm-hmm. And
And
immediately,
juror 3, reacts and is he even describes himself as excitable, and gets very, irritated and irate.
And people have to hold him back.
Yeah, and he starts screaming, "I'll kill him! I'll kill him!" And but as he calms down, juror 8 kind of looks at him with that solemn face and says, "You don't really mean that you'll kill me, do you?"
And that's when to me, that was like an aha moment for juror 8. He goes, "Aha! Like you just said this, but I know you don't mean it."
Yeah.
And this kid could have said this and didn't mean it. And that's when I feel like he used that for his help to get other jurors to flip.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, he definitely baited him out.
And that
Yeah, powerful stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think that from there moves into my next favorite scene, which is the recreation of the bedroom.
Yes.
Such a good scene.
Dude, this scene, man, I specifically love this scene because I love Juror 8's like dedication to looking directly at the facts and almost his like tenacity for the truth. And wanting to be like, I want to look at this from every possible angle so that way we can be absolutely sure that the vote or the verdict that we send into that judge is as accurate as it can possibly be. And they get a diagram of the layout of the apartments, and they say, okay, on floor 1 and floor 2 they're the exact same floor plan, all that stuff. So you got your bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, other bedroom, closet, whatever, and then a long hallway, and then stairs that go up and down. And the story is that when the train passed by, there was a woman that saw
through the train car,
through the train car windows, stab his dad, and then when the body hit the floor, before he said I'll kill you, before he stabbed him he said I'll kill you, and then the body hits the floor the next day after as the train's going by. And then the old man said that he was able to get from his door through the hallway and halfway up the stairs or something like that within 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it was also revealed that this old man who
this is what I love.
This old man who was able to do that in 15 seconds has also had a stroke and limps with one leg. He's he drags one foot when he walks. So
I love this scene.
Yeah, I love the way that
I love this right here.
I love that the way that they set it up. And he was like, you really think that a man with only really one mobile leg would be able to get how long is this? And they say this is that hallway is alone
43 feet
is
or
43 feet.
Yeah,
that hallway alone, and then even from like the bedroom to the door to the hallway to the stairs, all that stuff.
He did it in 15 seconds.
Yeah, and he's supposed to have done that in 15 seconds.
And
with one
unlock
leg.
the door.
Yeah, and so he's like, all right, I want to set this up here. So, they move chairs and say,
he paces
this
it
is
all
the bedroom,
out.
This is all this stuff. He measures it by feet and says, okay, this hallway will be to that wall and back. And he says, I want you to time me. If I could do this all in 15 seconds with, one leg, then, that's evidence towards prosecution. And, we could feel confident in voting guilty to this kid. So, he's like, okay, tell me when to go. And, he starts limping and doing this whole thing.
They were like,
And
no, he goes faster than that.
Yeah,
He
and
goes,
even
okay.
a juror says, okay, I'll run fast. He was walking faster than that. Like
Yeah, and he's like, it was juror 10 that starts saying, oh, he would have walked faster than that. And all this stuff,
Like,
and he
okay,
even
I'll
speeds
go
it up a little
faster.
bit.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, I'll speed it up then. And starts to walk a little bit faster and gets to the one end of the wall and starts coming back. And he says, wait just a second. He says, lock, turn, door, stop. And, juror number 2 says, that was exactly 41 seconds.
Yes.
And everyone is like, no, that couldn't have been. It couldn't be possible and all this stuff and everything. He's like, I'm just saying, like, think about it. Like this is possible. It's possible that people who came in are not telling the truth, or they are. What happened is not what they think happened. And
I
you just
forget
have to be
what
able to look
juror
at it.
says, but they were like, maybe this old man wasn't recognizable, and he just wants that.
Oh, and this is again, it brings a little bit of that personality traits with each juror, and it's juror number 9. He's the older man.
Yeah,
and he's like, I might be the only one that's able to really like could have
Right.
seen it or recognized some of the like this problem that he's having. And
Yeah.
he was talking about what you were saying, Abraham.
Yeah, and he's an old person who probably wasn't like well liked or well known, and this is like his. To me, I kind of took it as like his 5 seconds of fame.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe what he's saying is not entirely true. Some of it could be true.
Yeah.
But it's not entirely true, and he's just using it to be seen, be
Yeah.
known that he's still a person. And when he says exactly 41 seconds, you see the reaction. I think I want to say it was juror 11
I love this guy.
who was like,
The mustache guy?
The
yeah,
mustache guy.
yeah, I
love
think
this
it was
dude.
him, and he was like, okay, he goes, maybe he's on to something. He's on to something.
Yeah.
Saying to juror 9, and I was like, bro, the juror 8 is the GOAT.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I was like, juror 8's gonna switch everybody.
Yeah.
He has to at least.
Yeah, and throughout this whole time, it's like one person at a time is saying, I vote not guilty now. So it goes from 11 to 1. Now it's 9 to 3.
Dude.
And it
Yeah, and then it starts to dwindle.
I found
starts to
myself-
it's
I found
The
myself
power
in
starts
a
to
specific vote. I started counting on my hand.
No, yeah, and
Like
that,
I was
when
like
it was 6 to 6.
Yeah, when it was,
I was like-
specifically when it was 6-6. Like right when it got to the end of it, I was like, "It's 6-6."
And I literally yelled to Sal, and I was like, bro, it's 6 to 6. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, it's 6 guilty, 6 not guilty. He goes, oh shoot. And I found myself cheering every time somebody said not guilty.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I can't believe he's doing it.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
It's because he's shining the light, man.
Yeah.
It's this is like, he even describes it as like, if I was that kid, like he says, I try to imagine myself in that kid's position, and if I had that defense attorney, I would have asked for a new one. I would have
Yeah.
wanted him to rip them as much as he could, and I didn't see that in this courtroom.
Yeah.
So I already knew that something was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I even love it too. There's the evidence they brought of I said earlier, number 2. He said like, what I did have a question about. It's kind of awkward for a younger man to stab like up and over
Yeah.
inside.
A man who's 5'7"
To stab like a 6'2".
Yeah, stabbing a guy who is 6'2" to go up and down.
Yeah, it was a little awkward, and of course,
And
number
then-
3 is like, oh, okay, let's recreate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of a little tense moment right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Because like when he goes back, everyone is like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
like look like he's about to stab him
It
for
does.
real.
Well, because he even like goes a little bit, and then I think what he says was no harm here, right?
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And then I think it was juror 4 who comes up, and he's a little bit taller. He goes, with the switchblade though, or the guy.
No, it's a
guy-
5.
it's the
guy
from
it's
the
the guy
slums.
from the slums.
Yes,
He says like,
sorry.
I'm
I'm from around
he's like,
there.
I'm from around there. I know how to handle a
use the
switchblade.
switchblade.
You wouldn't, when you open one, you
wouldn't-
immediately you wouldn't open
Hold
it and
it like
then
this.
turn it around to grab it like that.
takes
It's,
too
it's-
long.
Yeah, it takes too long. When
would
you
hold
open
it.
it, you want to immediately hold it underhand like this
And then just whoop.
and go stab.
Yeah.
I've been in,
Bro.
he's like, I've been in plenty of knife fights, and it just doesn't make sense. The logistics of it wouldn't, when you open that thing, you want to stab that way, not open it up, grab it around, and go like this.
Yeah, it's
know?
another piece of evidence slowly
That's
destroyed.
faulty evidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's destroying the wound and how it happened and everything, and it's slowly breaking down that jury again.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm completely bought into not guilty.
Yeah,
Because there's so much evidence, and it made me even more frustrated to hear number 3 and number 10 both being like, oh, hey, they're all liars, from where they're at. Like,
Yeah.
especially with number 10 and his
Yeah.
kind
And
of
him-
prejudice coming through
exactly.
pretty heavily there.
Mm. Which actually that leads into my next
it does?
favorite scene
Okay.
when everyone starts to turn their backs on juror 10,
Mm-hmm.
and it's at this point we've had enough evidence that is built up where there is more than enough reasonable doubt that this kid should not get the chair, and or even if he were not to get the chair, that he would at least need to go to trial again, so that way he gets a fair trial, and and that all this evidence gets looked at again, but juror 10 gets angry and starts to spew this hatred that is just purely, and one thing I like about this is I heard it referenced as slow escalation, in the fact that juror 10, he makes these slight jabs throughout the film, and he always references the accused as them, and he says like, oh, you can never trust them, You know, they're all liars. It's born in them. And like, you know, saying all these like sweeping statements that have no basis in reality. And you know, we start to glean from the fact that, oh, this guy is racist. He is solely acting. His vote is solely on how he feels about this person, emotionally rather than logically. And it's disgusting, and
I think it was powerful what everyone did too, because they heard it being spewed, and he's going crazy too.
Yeah, and he won't stop, and everyone just slowly gets up and just kind of starts to like almost like shun him.
I loved it,
and they just kind of turn their backs, and they make themselves aware that they are not listening to this guy. And he starts to recognize that, and is like,
and he starts to kind of like shrink almost, because he's like, well, what? He starts to get quieter and
because nobody's listening to him. Everybody has their back turned.
He's realizing that he is the only one there that
is feeling this way.
Yeah,
and you know, eventually goes and takes a seat by himself. And I think someone even says something is like, "Boy, if you don't shut up, I'll split your skull," or something like that.
Yeah.
And he goes and like sits down by himself, and eventually he doesn't talk the rest of the film after that. And yeah, it was just a really powerful scene, and I really enjoyed the way that, you know, the camera movement like was so focused on him at one point in his tirade, and then as the people start to turn their backs, you know, it gets further and further and further away, and just shows the you know, the entire scale of this jury room, and everybody just taking up corners and looking out windows and turning their backs on him and stuff. And it's an incredibly powerful scene.
Yeah, they took the power away from him, like, easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He immediately shrunk to just this pathetic little old man.
Yeah.
And that leads into one of my favorite. It's kind of getting towards the end. It's the convincing of number 4, the dude with the glasses.
Yeah.
This is one of the most powerful scenes to me, in my opinion, because throughout the film, you know, we get told it's the hottest day ever, and everyone's sweating, the fan's not working, and all this stuff, and you know, everybody is sweating except juror number 4.
Yeah.
And he's this very analytical stockbroker type deal, and he's almost like a computer, it seems like, with all the facts, and he's able to remember the smallest of details ever. And he's been for guilty this entire time, and he goes, he asks him directly, he goes, why, like, tell me your case. And he goes, okay, I have 2 things. One, the lady talking, like, the lady, it's unrefutable evidence. It's unshakable.
She saw him do it.
She literally saw him do it. And immediately he asks him, like, how are you going to refute her witness, her eyewitness? And he sits there and he's like, you know, I don't know. And again, number 9 comes back, and he's this very attentive man, and he, just like he saw the dude limping, just like he could understand his point of life, he also noticed that the woman who goes up there, she didn't have glasses, but she did have the indentations where glasses used to be. And you know, she makes this
she does
this movement of like trying to, you know, make it feel better there or whatever. And he asks him, well, why do you think she did that? And they notice that her eyewitness had to have been through a train car, also when it's dark out, right?
Yeah, and in her apartment.
And it's already like
probably
12
60 feet away.
Yeah, 12 at night. She was tossing and turning in bed, couldn't sleep, and the only way she could have those indentations is if she wore glasses. And the way he explains it is like, now, do you wear glasses when you sleep? And he goes, no, I do not.
Yeah.
And immediately he is like, oh, her evidence is no longer solid, because she could have easily just saw a blurb.
Exactly.
And just thought it was the kid. It could have been anything else.
Exactly.
And he notices that because he wears the glasses. He has those same indentations. He does the same exact nose movements.
Yep.
Like, he's able to pinpoint the evidence and bring it into their lives to where they can understand, like, oh, this isn't lining up with what I believe anymore.
Exactly.
And it's so powerful because immediately he looks over to the foreman and he says,
I want another vote. And they all vote, and we finally get him saying, not guilty. And they're like, what made you change your vote? And he says, I'm convinced, not guilty.
And that's how a jury should be. And they even there's some dialogue too where it's like, there should be no sides here. There's no right and wrong.
Exactly.
That's not what they're trying to do. It's if there is evidence that proves any kind of doubt at all, then it should not be sending him to the chair.
Exactly.
The facts should prove it otherwise. And it
Exactly.
does. It doesn't. And they're slowly starting to realize. And I think number 4 is a perfect example of that because, he was really for guilty. And once he is presented facts that go against it, immediately he's like, yep, I'm convinced. Like, he's not guilty.
Yeah, and that's honorable.
It's very honorable. It's powerful.
Yeah, it is. That it also kind of reminds me a little bit further back. I believe is it juror number 11. He says something to the effect of when he switches his vote to not guilty. I think juror 10 looks at him and says, "No, what are you switching sides for?" or something like that. And he's like, "I didn't. I'm not holding any loyalty to any other side. We're choosing a man's fate here. There's no point in picking sides. We should be looking at this from a logical standpoint and whether or not this man should be free or die. There's no point in being like, oh, come to my side.
Yeah.
Like
it should be objective.
Exactly.
But like they said, it's really hard to differentiate the emotion from the actual logical stuff.
Exactly.
But I think they did it perfectly.
They did.
They killed it.
Abe, you got any other favorite scenes?
No, we hit all the ones that I had written down.
Okay. My last one then is the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed the ending because eventually, we break juror 3. We break him down. He has this
You're alone.
this big emotional monologue, and I really enjoy it, man. Like the guy that plays this, I think his name is like Lee J. Cobb or something like that.
Yep.
Dude, he's great.
He's awesome.
He is a phenomenal actor, man, and he kills this monologue, and everything that we've known this character to be up until this moment is, just this frustrated, insecure man who, feels like you got to be the manliest man to ever be a man. And like in order to do anything in life. And, we realize that, everything that this guy's been doing has been causing him so much trouble all his life. And, starts to break down and has this, epiphany after he rips up his only photo of him and his son, who he no longer has contact or hasn't had contact with in 2 years, and changes his vote to not guilty. And, after that, they give the verdict to the judge, and, juror 8 comes and helps put his coat on him, which I feel like is a very touching image. And
big statement.
It's a big statement that, like, even in a loss or anything like that, or if you feel like you've been defeated, like, at the end of the day, like, no one was there to try to prove you wrong. We're there to do a service, and we're there to, uphold one another. And I could still be man enough and, congratulate you and hug you in your time of need and all that stuff. But my absolute favorite is when they, we get out of that courtroom and we get out into those courthouse steps, and we just see everybody just leaving.
Yep. Just like,
and like, it kind of blew my mind because like everyone walks out and there's no like send off for the characters. It's just like
they just go about it. They go about their day.
They go about their day, and
like they didn't just save a kid's life.
Exactly. And that was one thing that blew my mind. I was like, man, like I feel like they went through this whole transformative experience for the greater good almost. And they're kind of like, all right, back to the house, like
back to normal life,
back to life. Like I got a life to live. Let's go do it, And it's something that like really struck me. Like, obviously that is very realistic in that sense, but like, the romantic side of me would have wanted to be like, man, I got to keep in touch with these guys, like these guys are my friends now, but like the honest and real side of me is like, yeah, like everyone's got a life, man. You got to get back to it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was beautiful in the way that they decided to show it with, especially with the goodbyes, because at this point we still don't know anyone's name.
Nobody's names.
And we get revealed that Juror 8's last name or first name is Davis. And then Juror 9 is, you said McCradle or McCardle?
I want to say McCradle because it's spelled McCradle.
Yeah, so McCradle. So they introduce themselves. That's it. They just give their names and they kind of have a long pause and they say, all right, so long. He says, see ya. And they walk off and then credits roll. And I don't know, man. I thought it was really a beautiful ending into how, like, these guys were able to just part ways after that and show, like, after justice has been served, or their service has been done, that they were able to just carry on, go about their lives.
Yep. So. And it almost kind of felt like, because for me it felt like their attire was all suits, but because it's in black and white, it looks white. Mm-hmm. But I think it could have been like a light gray or something. But he seemed kind of like the one that was out of place. Yeah. And we get to see him it kind of just feels hopeful, like a change has been made, because he walks down those steps with his with his iconic fit, and it just feels hopeful at the end of it, which I really enjoyed. Yeah. But that's it, man.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
This boy survives.
Short, concise, but incredibly powerful.
Exactly. Well, if that's it for the favorite scenes, let's get into some best quotes.
All right.
There are some bangers here.
There are some bangers, and I feel bad because I didn't write bangers down.
Okay. My first one is from Juror 10, and he says something to the effect about the boy, and he says, I believe he gets brought up that one of the persons thinks that he's bright, and Juror 10 objects with, bright, he's a common ignorant slob. He doesn't even speak. He says he don't even speak good English. Uh-huh. And Juror 11, who is obviously foreign, turns around to him and says he doesn't even speak good English. Yeah. And corrects him. Yeah, and I remember I was watching that, and immediately I was like, oh, you got wrecked, bro. Wrecked. Come on. Yeah. Come on, man.
So you can't insult someone when you can't even speak English correctly.
Yeah. And someone who's a foreign just corrected you.
Don't throw stones in a glass house, homie.
Yeah.
About to get broken. I love juror number 11. I have a quote.
He's a savage.
He's such a savage. He goes up to speak, and he goes, oh, I beg your pardon. And number 10 is like, I beg your pardon. Why are you so polite? Or what are you so polite about? And he gets up there and he goes, for the same reason you're not. It was the way I was brought up. And I was like,
some fire.
Burn, dude.
Yeah, dude. Ooh. He keeps giving Juror 10 those hooks.
I have one from Juror 9 who, I believe this is right after he says, not guilty. When he gives the not guilty, and he goes, it's not easy to stand alone against the ridicule of others. And he's saying that to Juror 8, I believe, because he goes, you're by yourself, and you're getting crapped on by all these other jurors. And he realizes, and so, it's true to this day, it's not easy when you're getting wrecked by other people. Not even wrecked, just judged. Yeah. It's not easy being by yourself.
Yeah, it's hard to stand alone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it is admirable when it is done
in a good way.
In a good way. And I think that's one thing that I really do love about Juror 8 is that he holds to his morals, and he has integrity in the fact that he's like, no, I think that this is correct, and I'm going to stand by that. And I love that.
He believes.
Yeah, my next one here is a conversation between Juror 3 and number 8 in the conversation about the L train that's drowning out, the supposed death threat. And Juror 3 says, you're talking about a matter of seconds. Nobody can be that accurate. And Juror number 8 says, well, I think testimony that can put a boy into the electric chair should be that accurate. Which
it's true.
Is very true.
Yeah.
I think everything has to be accurate when you're talking about death.
For sure. That's what he was saying too. And there's a quote I have from number 8. I'm breaking it up because it's pretty long, but it's after the whole thing, it's after the whole racist tirade number 10 goes on. And he says, it's always difficult to keep personal prejudice out of a thing like this. And wherever you run into it, prejudice always obscures the truth.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, we may be trying to let a guilty man go free. I don't know. Nobody can really know. But we have a reasonable doubt, and that's something that's very valuable in our system. No jury can declare a man guilty unless it's sure. So it's that same idea of what you were talking about earlier, that the quote you had.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I like that.
I have a funny one. It's between Juror 7 and Juror 5. He goes, hey, you a Yankee fan? And he goes, no, Baltimore. And Juror 7 goes, Baltimore, that's like being hit in the head with a crowbar once a day. And I laughed because me, as a baseball fan, I'm like, bro, if you're a Baltimore fan, what are you doing?
That's like being a Browns fan.
It's like being a Dodgers fan. You're getting hit in the head once a day.
I'd say that about the Giants.
Oh, my gosh. I'll be the one doing the bonking. How about that?
All right, my last one here comes from Juror number 6 when him and Juror number 8 are in the bathroom together, and they're talking about, Juror 8 is asking Juror 6 to, suppose the defendant's innocence. And Juror 6 says, well, I'm not used to supposing. I'm just a working man. My boss does all the supposing, but I'll try one. Supposing you all talk us out of this, and the kid really did knife his father. And then leaves on that note.
The way that they frame it, too, it's like...
He's a painter, right? Six is the painter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments that, like, bring you back to reality. Like, you know, up until this point, we've been like, oh, yeah, Juror 8. Like, you're rooting for him in the fact that, like, oh, man, he's revealing everything that, you know, has been looked over, glossed over. But I love that the script is like, okay, but, like, there's still, like, the possibility that this man could have possibly done it.
Yeah.
You know, like, what if Juror 8 is wrong? Like, and you know, we let a killer go out back on the streets. Like, that is a hard decision to make.
Yeah.
And Juror 6 brings that out and says, you know, what if he did?
Yeah.
You know, what if he did? And everything that we're saying right now is incorrect, and we are just letting him go back on the streets. That's a tough decision to make, man. And it was one of the moments that stopped me dead in my tracks, and I was like, oh shoot. Like
what if we are wrong?
Yeah.
Because I was immediately rooting for the kid. I was like, oh, but what if he truly is guilty? Like, what if all the testimony is right? You know?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, it's one of those moments that I really appreciate they decided to put in the script that, you know, it brings us back to the gravity of the situation. So
it's definitely an unbiased look.
Yeah.
I think. So,
I
but
guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. I have no other quotes, though.
All right. Well, if that's it for the quotes, I believe we can get into bro moment.
Dude, my first one, I hate my body for this. But, like, I got, like, 15 minutes in, then I had to use the restroom, so I had to pause it. But, so my first bro moment is the death sentence is a mandatory in this case.
Yeah.
And so it was the biggest bro moment. And, like I said, I had to use the restroom, so I paused it, and I went to go say something to Alexa, and I said, dude, it's already, like, a big bro moment when the judge was like, no matter the outcome, if he goes to jail, the death sentence is a mandatory. And I was like, dude, he's 18 years old. Just give him the life sentence. Like, I was like, just let him, like, if he really did it, rot in jail.
The punishment for murder back
in the day was death.
First-degree murder
was death, yeah.
So,
and I think
I get it, but I was just like, man.
Yeah. If they didn't have the stakes like that, though, it kind of would have been like, well, why are we arguing for? He's just going to go to prison.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's about like life and how precious it is.
It's about power.
I was just about to say that, too. We stay hungry and we devour.
Oh, dude, petition to put that song there.
But
sorry,
that reminds me of that. Be humble. That girl. You know what I'm talking
Sit
about?
down.
Be humble.
She sits in the car.
Baby in a spiral.
Yeah.
Dude, you're unlocking a memory. That I know.
Dude, that was on
exactly what you're talking
Instagram
about.
for so long too.
Time. She thought she was doing something.
That's funny.
Sit down.
That's funny. All right, my first bro moment is immediately the 11-1 vote.
Like right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. It was a bro moment because, you know, exactly what we said at the beginning of this podcast. Just first glance at the evidence, you're like, oh, we got an eyewitness. We got a guy that heard he said he did it. We've got the weapon. Like,
he did it.
He did it.
Yeah.
Like
it's an easy whodunit.
There's no case here. What are they discussing? And, you know, immediately we hear this guy, you know, raise his hand for not guilty and starts to shatter the evidence a little bit. And I immediately was like, dang, okay. All right, well,
let's hear it.
You know, let's break it down a bit more. Then we need to talk about this. And I was immediately intrigued, and that was just a big bro moment right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. One of the bro moments I had was they take all the evidence out, but they leave the knife that he had bought, and dude, the number 3 goes on this crazy tirade of like, look, even the knife. Look, this is the knife he used to kill him. And the guy is like, remember, that's not the knife. And it's another form of like, that knife. This isn't.
There's
evidence.
Multiple of that knife.
Yeah,
like,
this is not evidence that you can use. And there's another bro moment I had too where it was in another tirade of his where he goes, I'll forget about all the other evidence. Like, we have it all right here. And then he even is like, at the very end of it, he's like, you're all alone. And he goes, well, let's look at the evidence. And one of the guys was
jury
like,
2 says, you said we could throw out all the other evidence.
yeah. And it's a lot of these contradictions that they're making. It's like they're getting stuck in their own words.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly fulfilling to see this. And it was me going like, bro, dude, you're
alone. You're on an island, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's like,
juror
bro,
3 just continues to put his foot in his mouth.
just stop.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. My next one is when juror 8 brings out that identical switchblade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one for me.
It was
So powerful.
Such a, like, I hate to say this because I think it's got a little cringe, but such a boss move to, like, pull out, like, to just stare at someone and then be like,
Well, I got one the same one.
you know, and pull it down and everyone's like, where did you get that? You know,
Yeah.
like, it's one of those things where you're just like, all right, I know something that you guys don't, and I'm about to.
That's kind of BA.
Yeah, like I'm gonna prove something to you guys that will make you rethink this whole situation.
Yeah.
And it was just, juror 8 just bringing out the heat.
My next one, it's like early on in the movie, but it's like, so almost close as yours is the 11-1, but mine is just the hesitation to say yes. I mean, there was no hesitation to say yes. He just wanted to say yes and go on with the day.
Yeah.
And I immediately, because I found myself thinking, man, of course it's an 18-year-old. He has so much to live for, this and this and that. So I was just like, you don't even want to think about it? Like, that's a life you're taking away.
Yeah.
Like, he has a I mean, he doesn't have a dad anymore, but he has a family. Sorry. I didn't mean to say it like
Well, it doesn't have a dad anymore.
I didn't mean to say it like that.
That was funny.
I'm sorry.
Hey, bro.
I'm sorry.
That was funny.
No, I get you though.
That was hilarious.
Sorry. Carry on.
I had a bro moment about juror number 6. I hate the fool
Yeah.
because he's got a ball game to go to, but it's
Yeah,
when
he irritates me too whenever he's just like, oh, I'll pick whatever is going to get us out of here faster.
yeah,
It's
that,
like,
I thought that was Jury 7 because he's the one that likes the Yankee.
mm-mm.
it's
No.
I think it's 6, right?
No, that is 7 because he's sitting right next to juror number 8.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're at 7. Okay, so 7, and this is the bro moment I had with his 6-6, and immediately he's like, "Oh, well, we're in a stalemate, so I guess I'll just choose not guilty."
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere, I had no regard for anything. And number 11 is like, "What are you talking about? You can't play games with life or death here.
Yeah.
It's like who are you to play games like this?"
Yeah.
And immediately he's like, "Well, I'm just trying to get this done faster because I got a ball game to go to."
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
It's-
you're freaking ridiculous right now.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things like there's no humanity,
None.
like no morality at
No.
all.
Well,
Like
they're
he's
just thinking about their own
He-
selfish life.
exactly like he's choosing entertainment over life.
Mhm.
Like I had said, like it boggles my mind. Like I don't understand how a guy could just be like, I don't care, kill him. You know, like like that's essentially what he's saying the whole time. Like it's crazy to me.
Mhm.
But my next and final bro moment is when juror 8 decides that he wants to start to talk again, and I think it's juror 3 and 12 start to play tic-tac-toe
Dude.
during his argument. I
And he goes
immediately,
over there and
I immediately was like, the disrespect, like the disrespect to this guy and to this kid,
Mhm.
you know, like to not even give a freaking
Time of
crap
day.
about this guy, you know, and just be like, I don't care. All right, your ex is almost like that's so disrespectful,
Mhm.
and it blew my mind, and it juror 8 had the correct response to go over there and like crumble it up. And I love juror 3 acting like a little kid and being like, what's the matter? Like, you know, and being like, what'd you do
We're
that
not
for?
We're
you
not doing
know?
anything wrong.
Yeah, and I was like,
And
you guys don't understand the gravity of this situation here, man.
Mhm.
Like, we need to be adults about this.
And those fools are like, they get mad when nobody wants to listen to them, but when it's other people's time to talk, they're like, we don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
frustrating, man.
That's it for me.
Me as well. Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Well, if that's it for the bro moments, let's get into some facts.
Bro.
Yeah, so this kind of breaks my heart.
It does break my heart too, but we also kind of have to put it into the context of like
This is
you know,
1957.
the year, the time it came out, the the stipulations as to how it was released and all
Mhm.
that stuff. So
Yeah. So it does make me sad, but The budget to make this movie was $350,000, and it only made $955.
Yeah.
That's less than 1% of profit, right?
I was blown away.
I wonder how much $350,000 now though is.
So I had done this actually yesterday.
Oh, you did?
$350,000 worth today is about like $3.5 million, whereas $955 in 1957 today is worth about $9,600. So, so imagine putting $3.5 million into a movie and then only getting $9,000 back.
Dude.
That's got to be considered one of the biggest flops ever, right?
It hurts. It hurts. And when I saw that, I was kind of like, you gotta be joking me.
Wait.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I have another fact here from, it's a quote actually from Henry Fonda and his reception to the film and how it was released and stuff. He says that this is in his biography. It says that Henry Fonda was actually very disappointed with United Artists' distribution strategy. That's the production company. And he felt that the studio's approach had deprived the film of a chance at financial success. In particular, Fonda noted that United Artists placed it in theaters too large for a small, quote unquote, small film to fill, and in addition, did not re-release it after it had won numerous awards.
What fools.
Yeah. So after it had, was getting buzz and stuff like that and everything, they didn't even want to re-release it to like try to get more revenue and more traction.
Wow.
Yeah.
They missed the ball on that. They dropped it hard on that one.
Yeah.
Because it probably could have made... I mean, it's one of the most highly rated movies of all time.
It's probably made money streaming, no? Don't you think?
Well, what the thing is, like with box office numbers, it's really only like from the time that it was in theaters. Mm-hmm. That's what they count as box office earnings.
That's true. That's true.
It's hard to... I mean, you can always, support the film with streaming or buying physical copies and stuff as well, but at the end of the day, you're not... I mean, especially with this film, you're really just supporting the studio at that point. Like, none of the people, unfortunately, that were associated with this movie are alive at this point.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the facts that I had, which was with the death of Jack Klugman. Klugman. Sorry, excuse me. In Juror 5. He actually passed away on Christmas Eve of 2012. After that, none of the jurors are alive.
Yeah. Henry Fonda and all them.
Yeah. So rest in peace, man, to the cast and the crew.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely a goated movie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
My next one here actually is about the director, Sidney Lumet. And he would have all the actors all stay in the same room for several hours on end and do their lines over and over again without ever filming them. This was to give them a real taste of what it would be like to be cooped up in a real room with the same people in the same conditions. Which I think is great because it really makes it feel like, I don't know about you guys, but this film felt insanely real to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it felt like it was almost improvised. Like I think the acting and the writing in it were that good. Mm-hmm. Like to the point where I completely lost sight of like, these are actors. Mm-hmm. Like these are characters that they're playing. And it started to dawn on me that like, man, like these guys are just great because I'm truly buying everything that these guys are selling me, but yeah. You got a fact?
Yeah. So it's one of yours, but I'll steal it because I really enjoyed it.
Do it.
So because it failed at making a profit, Henry Fonda never received his deferred payment.
So he never got paid. He never got paid for this film.
Never got paid.
He went into debt for it.
I wonder how. Well, I think there was a fact that the filming took like a month, or it took like
the film like it was filmed I think in like 21 days or something.
I don't know. So he must have lost quite a bit of money on this.
Yeah.
But despite this setback, he always regarded this film as one of the three best he's ever made. The others being The Grapes of Wrath and The Oxbow Incident. Yeah. Which I'm actually interested in. They're older, 1940, 1942, but they're streaming anywhere. If it's as good as this one, I mean. Yeah. And I think,
at the end of the day, honestly, I think that is what's more important, in my opinion. And, it's easy to say that from, an outsider's or a bystander's perspective that, I didn't lose money on the thing, but I don't know. I've always felt that, like, at the end of the day, if you make a piece of art or something that is more culturally impactful or more culturally relevant, then, you know, financially successful or, you know, award worthy or something like that. But, you know, if it has an impact on people and on culture as it is today, I feel like that is infinitely more successful than, you know, any box office number could put on it. And, you know, it just sucks that I don't think Henry Fonda got to see the you know, the fruits that this eventually, you know, reaped. And, you know, and that's one of the things why this movie has to stay alive. You know, it's, you know, that's why we continue to talk about this stuff. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at Grapes of Wrath right now, and it's pretty highly rated, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, dang.
It's got an 8.5 on IMDb.
Yeah, it's based on a book, right?
Yeah, most likely, I think
by, man, what's his name? Totally blanking. John Steinbeck?
Yep. I don't know if it's John Steinbeck. I think it might be.
I don't know.
It should say on IMDb if it's by a book.
I'm scrolling through and
I forget.
What's the movie called again?
Grapes of Wrath?
Yeah.
All right, while you guys are looking that up, I'll actually give another fact here in regards to the accused teenager. This says specifically that the ethnic background of the teenage suspect was deliberately left unstated. For the purposes of this film, the important facts were that he was not of Northern Eastern ancestry, and that prejudice, or lack thereof it, from some jurors would be a major part of the deliberation process, which I thought to be very interesting. I liked that they left it ambiguous in the fact that, like, they didn't, you know, come down to, you know, one specific race that this character is. It's just the fact that he is different from the majority.
He's not white.
And yeah, he is not white. He is a person of color, and, you know, some people are going to think he did it just because he's a person of color. And, you know, it brings in a whole new aspect to the film, which I appreciate that they did.
Yeah. So I looked it up. It is John Steinbeck. You're right.
Yeah, I was just supposed to say with John Steinbeck. The last fact that I have was, so only 2 of the jurors were ever identified in this movie, which was Juror 8, and he's named Mr. Davis, and Juror 9, which is Mr. Cardell. McCradle. I don't know why I said Cardell, dude. I look at it, and I know what it is, and I look at it and I see different. But the other jurors are only named by the profession, which is Juror 1, called the high school football coach. Juror 2, bank teller. Juror 3, beck and call. He owns a massage messenger service. I said, dude, I hate this.
We're good.
And he's Juror 4, a stockbroker. Juror 6, a painter. Juror 7, a salesman. Juror 8, an architect. Juror 10, garage owner. Juror 11, watchmaker. And Juror 12, he's an advertising executive.
Yeah.
And that's what they're named as. They don't have any name.
Nice.
That's the way I can like correlate who they are.
Yeah.
Without knowing them. You know what I mean? They all have a very distinct personality.
Yeah.
Which is something I love, and we'll get into. Last fact I have, and it's kind of a goof that I thought, because I had noticed it, but I didn't think anything of it, but there's only 3 rooms. It's the courtroom, the jury room, and then the bathroom. And there's a scene where they go on intermission, and number 8 goes to the bathroom to wash his face. But the way he stands in the like there's 3 sinks, and he stands in the middle of the sinks and like to the side of it, in between the sinks, and washes his face like that. And I never, like, it seemed weird and a little awkward positioning for him to be there, but it was so, like, the camera couldn't move for, like, it. He wanted his face to be in it. So the camera, he had to be facing the camera somehow. Okay. And I was kind of like, oh, that makes so much sense. He had to be there in this awkward position because it was like to the side of it.
Next time I wash my hands, I'm gonna do that at Target. Or
like to the side of it. It was so strange, but it makes sense with how they had to film it.
Okay.
I thought it would be funny to bring up.
Okay, that ties into my last fact, sort of, in the aspect of how it was filmed. But because of the demands of this film's low budget, if the lighting was set up for a certain shot that took place from one particular angle, all the shots from that same angle had to be filmed right then and there.
Oh, dang.
This meant that different sides of the same conversation were sometimes shot several weeks apart from one another, which I thought was, very cost efficient, but also, like, it's got to be kind of confusing. Like, to be like, all right, we shot this. let's skip down a couple of pages in the script. We got to shoot this because it's from the same angle.
Yeah,
like all this stuff. It's got to be pretty confusing at some points, I would imagine. But
yeah.
Any other facts here?
Nope, that's it for me.
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right. Well, if there are no other facts, what didn't work in this movie for you guys?
I was thinking about this all day. It's really difficult to even come up with one thing.
Yeah, and that was one thing is I was thinking about the movie a lot today, and I was trying to think like, okay, what doesn't work? And I was trying to be as objective as possible. And I don't know, I've kind of come to the conclusion that I understand why it's so highly rated.
There's like everything fits in together like this, man. And
yeah, it's
like a puzzle piece.
This perfectly knit story.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's as highly rated as it is, man. I don't think there's anything wrong.
Well, if that's the case, then just move on.
Just move on to what
I
didn't
don't got
work.
anything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into what did work then. First off, I got to say off the bat, I think the direction is awesome in this. I love the long takes and the drawn out dialogue and the big monologues in some parts and just how impactful a lot of those scenes hit, specifically because of the writing, but great acting as well as direction. Wouldn't have happened without Sidney Lumet. So,
yeah.
I think for me, first off, the first thing that every time I'm going to think of this movie, I'm just going to think of how it made me feel the whole time, which was I didn't want to look off the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It kept me glued. Like after I finished it, I didn't write. I think I only had like 2 things written down, and that's because I didn't want to miss anything important. And this movie just was like, go, 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 and it's all dialogue, mostly dialogue. But
it's all dialogue,
and I loved it. And I think it's just the emotions that you get to feel in this movie. I was angry. I was cheering. Like I said, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll piggyback off you a bit in the fact that I think that that's a testament to how masterful the writing is in this. Like, it is remarkable. It's almost like with it. I think this movie almost has like the pacing of like an action film.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm glad you bring this up because that's one of the things that worked for me incredibly well was the pacing, and I described it in my own head as like exponential tension, where it's literally it starts slow, but then once something happens, it straight up goes woof, all the way up until that crucial climactic moment. But the pacing I thought was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and that's again another great testament to the writing.
Yeah,
and I gotta say again how remarkable the writing is. I love how minimal the film is. I love that it goes to show that at the end of the day, the only thing that you really need to make a great film is a great story.
That's true.
And you don't need the cinematography. You don't need the big cinematics and explosions and CGI and
this
all
isn't a
this
Michael
stuff.
Bay film.
Exactly. Like, in order to make a truly great film, the only thing that you need at the end of the day is a remarkable story.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, I love the integrity of Henry Fonda's character and him being able to recognize that we're playing with someone's life here. I love how beautifully the other characters are written and how fleshed out they feel. I love Juror 3 and the fact that he decides to change his vote at the end, and I felt like he did it. I feel like he did it after ripping up the photo and recognizing that everything that he has tried in his life that has gone wrong has been a consequence of his stubbornness and his his own like in his own words at how excitable he gets, and I think that he comes to the realization that everything that has happened up to this point has been because of me, and at some point I need to be able to take ownership of what I have done. I can't blame other people for it. I can't try to take my frustrations out on other people because I'm upset with myself. And I feel like he truly decides to make the change right then and there and decides to say not guilty, and he breaks down and starts crying and recognizes that, I need to change and I need to make that change today. And hopefully this is what starts that change.
Yeah, for sure.
So writing in this is awesome.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to bring up was the physical acting that they had to do, and I want to bring up it's only one room, so the fact that they made it interesting to look at was, I think, a feat in of itself, because You know, it's just one room, but you constantly are having people get up, take their coats off, light a cigarette, go to the window, fiddle with the fan. You know, there's plenty of things to be engaged with, and I think a lot of the camera movements too kind of aided in that, keeping us involved and engaged with the stories, because it's just a room. It's literally just a room.
Yeah.
But nothing in there works. There was no lights at the beginning. It's a fan doesn't work. It's just a table, 12 chairs, 12 guys.
Yep.
And you know, but the way that they physically act kind of just kept me engaged and involved the whole time. I was like, okay, this guy's standing up, he's going and he's pointing and he's doing like all crazy acting moves, and I was like, I'm here for this.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to bring up too, I wanted to give credit to the YouTuber I saw that he made a video. It's called Script Sleuth. It's really funny because they bring up the whole idea of this movie and how it breaks pretty much every rule that you do, where it's like showing and not telling. And it's like, okay, how about having it be only told to us, not seeing anything.
And not seeing anything.
And then there's one where it's like not having all your characters have similar names. And he's like, okay, well, how about have them all just juror number?
Yeah, no names at all.
Yeah, and then there's one where it's like, do not introduce all the characters at the same time. Like, give yourself time to introduce each character and have their own development. Nope. How about just everybody walking at the same time? And, you know, for as far away as it went with the rules or the laws or whatever, I think it still works incredibly well.
Oh, it does.
And it was... I wanted to bring it up because I was laughing.
Yeah.
Every time he had brought something up and how it completely... I went away from that. I was like, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. And I can appreciate it from that standpoint because, like, it takes risks. You know, that stuff shouldn't work. And it doesn't work in other films.
No.
Like, I'm immediately thinking of some bad movies, and I'm thinking about how they try to break the rules, and it doesn't pan out, and it makes the movie worse off for it.
Yeah.
But this movie does that, and it does it to a degree where you're like, man, that I don't even care. Like, I care about these guys. I don't even know their name.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like, it's a testament to how great this movie is. I think so.
I definitely agree.
Another thing that I liked was I think I want to rewatch this movie. Like, I think the rewatchability of this movie, like, probably like for half a year, give me half a year, and I'm gonna be like, I can watch the movie again, and I wouldn't mind it. And I think this is a movie that I will definitely tell people to watch, just because of how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
For
found.
sure.
Yeah, I think I'll piggyback off you as well and say that this movie is entirely rewatchable.
Yeah.
But I had also found myself wanting to go up to certain coworkers and being like, "Dude, I watched this movie last week."
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking of people at my job, and I'm like, there's some of my coworkers listen to this, and I'm like, specifically, there's one that I'm like, I always talk to him about the movie that I'm doing every week, and I'm gonna go up to him when I go to work on Wednesday and be like, you need to watch this episode, or you need to watch this movie before you listen to this episode, so you can understand.
Yeah,
And I'm so excited for it.
yeah.
Because I don't know, like, I'm so glad. I'm really glad we watched this movie. Like,
Yeah.
this was a good movie.
Yeah, I had found myself in the same situation. I have a specific coworker. You know, we always talk about what's going on and our weekends and stuff. And I immediately wanted to go up to him and be like, "Dude, I watched 12 Angry Men this weekend," and he would have been like, "What is that?"
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I'd be like, "Dude, it was this awesome movie, and like,
Yeah.
it's about this, this, and this, and you should watch it." You know, and like I was hyped about it, and you know, it's funny looking back on it. I can kind of, you know, see that from an outsider's perspective, like seeing this kid, you know, being so hyped about a movie that came out before I was even born.
I know.
1997,
Like, before
yeah.
my parents were born, you know, like it's, you know, it's funny in that aspect, but I don't know, this movie has a je ne sais quoi about it that is beautiful in that regard. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
That's it for me. I feel like we hit everything.
Yeah, I'll say lastly, I've kind of already hit on this as well, but acting in this is outstanding.
Phenomenal.
It blows my mind that nobody got nominated for acting or nothing like that for any Oscars. I feel like almost all of them deserve like honorary nominations or something.
Well, was this an Oscar-nominated film?
It
was, but it didn't win anything, right?
No, yeah, it was nominated for Best Picture, Director, and Adapted Screenplay.
Dang.
But yeah, unfortunately, did not win anything.
Yeah.
But again, with this acting, I'd already brought this up again, like I said, but I truly believed every character in this film, and it was almost like the actor, you know, washed away, and I was solely watching like something real happening on screen. It felt like, and that's just a testament to the amazing acting and writing and blocking and all that stuff. It's it's one of those like events that everything comes together to create this like beautifully knit quilt. And you stand back at the end of it and you're just like, wow, that is beautiful. And like there are all these individual little pieces that make up what this entire picture is, and you just appreciate it for what it is when you stand back and look at it. So
for sure, man.
Yeah. All right, who wins this movie?
I put Henry Fonda.
Yeah, Juror 8.
Juror 8, Henry Fonda. He kills it.
Yeah, I agree. Juror 8 is the cornerstone to this film, I think. And I love him.
Yeah, me too.
All right. What are some themes for this?
I immediately put critical thinking is key.
Yeah.
Just because if no one had the foresight to even question some of these things, someone would have died.
Someone would have died. An innocent person would have been dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
and
it
happens all too often.
All too often. It kind of is scary to think about how much, because it was commonplace to just be like, oh yeah, person of color. At the time it was like, just.
Yeah, he probably did it.
He probably did it. He's a liar. All this stuff number 10 was spewing.
Yeah.
And
ridiculous.
Yeah. And it was only whenever he stood up for him.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead. I like the video you sent me, but it just has to do with the whole encompassing picture of this 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, and the video that I sent the guys is kind of like an analysis into this movie and its themes of the value of human life. But a theme that I had taken out specifically from this film is the concept of reasonable doubt and the importance of true justice, and like being able to set aside any prejudice that you may have, and to truly look at something for as it is with no bias at all, and truly determine what is the correct option here. We have an important decision to make with this kid's life, and it is a literal life or death situation. And I loved this movie's concept of reasonable doubt, and the fact that what once seemed like such solid evidence, once you start to question it a little bit and start to break that down, it starts to crumble.
Yeah, completely falls apart.
Yeah, and it starts to shed light on what that reasonable doubt is, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah,
I wrote 2. The first one I put was don't choose the easy way out. Actually think what's happening and just think it through. I know it kind of like repeats itself. And the second one I put was don't be a sheep. And by that I just mean I think these people just heard something and they're like, all right, we're gonna follow that.
Yeah.
And I think we all do that. As we hear something and or see something, and we're like, oh, sounds cool, or looks cool, I'm going to do it. And this is something that you shouldn't be a sheep about.
Yeah. Stick by your morals.
Yeah.
Stand by your word.
So that's what I put.
All right.
The value of integrity.
Like that. All right. What are we rating this film?
I give it a 9.
Okay. I have to give it a 10.
I was waiting for it. I didn't know what you were gonna rate it.
I knew you were gonna give it a 9 or a 10.
I have to.
It's respectable. It's highly respectable. It deserves it.
Yeah, I understand why it gets so many, so much, I know why it's so highly regarded and why it gets so much praise, and I feel like it's almost a sin, like that I've only watched it just now.
Yeah.
And I'm just appreciating it now.
I feel like this is a movie we should have known.
Yeah. But
I had known about it often because I had seen it in Barnes & Noble, and the cover is sick because it's like this red and orange 12 men on it, and I was like, man, what is this all about? And I'm really upset that I didn't buy it because I don't remember what other movie I took.
Dude, and Criterion Collection had a sale last week.
They did?
Yeah, they had like a flash
for 24 hours.
Sale.
Of course they did. That's still, though, it's $20. It's worth it, but like...
You get a lot.
You do get a lot. You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Which is what I appreciate. That's why I like the Criterion Collection, aspect of things, is because you get all these little ins and outs and stuff.
Yeah, that booklet was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give your rate.
I'm giving it a 10 too. It took me a long time to come to this conclusion, but I just enjoyed it. I think it's like one of the it's crucial. I loved it. I thought I loved everything it brought forward. And I could see nothing wrong with it. So
yeah.
A 10 for me.
Real quick,
Giving them out like candy.
We were talking about Criterion Collection. Do you know what movie I saw is on Criterion Collection?
Transformers.
No. Close.
Real?
Something like that. It has an actor from that movie.
Shia LaBeouf.
No.
What
Mark
else?
Wahlberg.
No. Megan Fox. It's a Megan Fox movie.
Oh, you're thinking Jennifer's Body.
Jennifer's Body's in Criterion Collection.
It's streaming on Criterion Collection's
I
site.
think they have it, though.
They don't have an actual physical copy. I looked.
Oh, dude.
I was going to get it.
Have you watched it?
I've watched Jennifer's Body, yeah.
I watched
And?
it.
It's good. It's campy.
Oh, okay.
And it walks the line like really beautifully, if I don't say so. Like it's funny and
It's been so long since I've watched it. I haven't watched it in so long.
It's self-aware in certain aspects. It's genuinely like
You gotta like campy stuff, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
It's hard for me.
Yeah, you have to be able to like appreciate camp.
Oh, dude.
And what that
That's
is.
so
you know?
I'm thinking about the
difficult.
pool
Yeah, it
scene.
is. Huh?
Do you know the pool? Do you remember the pool scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I know because I went to look for it and I was like, there's no way there's a Criterion Collection, but I found out it's just streaming. Criterion Collection has their own like streaming
Channel,
service.
yeah.
Like they call it the Criterion Channel. You can buy like a yearly subscription for like.
See, and so
$100
that's my
or
fault. I guess
something.
I took it. I didn't really pay attention. I just saw it was on there and it had the spy number.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, dude, it's on Criterion Collection.
That's wild. Dude, I wish they put Transformers on.
If it was the first two, I'd buy them.
Yeah, on the cover it just has Optimus Prime saying "Roll out."
No, all you hear that TikTok, the Optimus Prime.
And it would do and they would do, instead of like, you know how they do the extras, they would have like a little Optimus figurine that you could transform.
That'd be funny.
It's like nothing about the movie, it's about the memorabilia.
It's that little square box.
Yeah.
Are you Lady Man 1227
Oh,
or whatever?
Gosh, you Lady Man 217.
Ladies Man 217.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah, that's the end of this episode, concluding our thoughts about 12 Angry Men. So if you guys did like that episode, make sure that you leave us a rate and review, comment, like, subscribe, share the videos, follow us on Instagram, do all that stuff, that we have to say because...
Don't forget that like button, hit that bell notification, everything.
All that stuff. Typical YouTube.
Let's get this video to 100 likes.
Yeah. Can we get this video to 100,000 likes?
100,000. That's a lot.
Yeah. I want to see if we can get the most disliked video ever.
No. Actually, the most disliked video is Baby by Justin Bieber. Why do I know that? I don't know.
That's funny. But, yeah, do all that stuff. Like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. It really does help out. I know that you guys hear it a lot. But, coming from a I guess you could say, like, creator standpoint, it really does help out, and to know that, you guys are liking the stuff, you're interacting with it, and then, people aren't just watching it just to watch. They're truly liking the content and interacting with it in a way that, is getting them plugged into our little community that we have built up. So, get in contact with us that way as well, either through YouTube or through our Instagram. It's at the Film Bros Podcast, and all the other methods of contact that we have are in our episode descriptions. So make sure that you guys check that out. And I think without further ado, I think we're going on to Nick's pick.
Yeah, yes. I just literally
we haven't talked about it because we have a whole...
We have a schedule.
Yeah.
But we've been kind of
switching it up.
Yeah. So I don't know what we're doing.
I'm sticking to it. I really, really want to watch I think it's an Oscar winner, Birdman.
Yeah, so this one has a long title too. It's Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Yeah. So it came out in 2014. It's got Michael Keaton. And I pretty much know nothing about it other than what you've told me, where it's just like a washed up actor, I think.
Yeah, he's an actor who is known solely for his superhero role as Birdman.
And
he's trying to break out into the scene again, fully renewed and rejuvenated, but can't break out of that role.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up about this film is that it's not, I don't want to say one of the first, just because I don't know that offhand, but it's one of the films that try to do it in a whole, like a one-take style thing.
Yeah.
And the first time I had experienced that was the movie 1917, and I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm fatigued on that style yet, so I think I'm still going to be blown away if they do it correctly. Yeah. I think they do. I mean, it won.
Yeah, I've only watched this movie once, and it was when it won awards at the Oscars, and I was in Merced College Library, watching it illegally on my laptop, allegedly. But I remember loving it and noticing the one take, and this was the first movie that I had ever been exposed to that lucky. Has that one take feel, and I remember noticing it and being like, man, this feels like it has no cuts. This is so sick. Like, the camera is just moving all the time, and it's revolving around characters, and it feels like it never stops. And I love the way that they decide to shoot certain scenes and certain inner monologues, and just the whole theatrics of it all is great. And I'm excited to rewatch it, honestly, because I haven't watched it in years. Yeah. So it'll be really nice to revisit, and also be nice to hear what you guys think about it on a first watch. So.
I've never seen it, yeah.
Never seen it. Really excited. The only thing bad about it is that it's not streaming on any common platform. It is on Tubi.
Yeah, for free.
For free with ads.
Yeah.
So if you have Tubi, go for it there. If not, it's got to be for rent on Apple, Redbox, all your normal stuff there. But
I'm looking at the cast, and
it's packed.
It's packed. It has Michael Keaton, Zach Galifianakis.
Zach Galifianakis is in it?
Edward Norton.
Emma Stone.
Wow. I didn't know any of this.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, dang.
They got some heavy hitters for sure.
All right. I'm excited. Yeah. So if you like Spider-Man, what is it? Homecoming.
Yeah.
He's the Vulture.
Yep.
So if that's a one way to connect Michael Keaton if you don't know who he is.
He's also Batman.
He is.
Yeah. So, yeah, make sure that you check that out and tune in with us next week to hear what we think about Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Yeah.
As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.